Hey, good evening, everybody. This is John again from Volkswagen Planet, and tonight we're going to start on part 4 of the 1972 Super Beetle rewire. And tonight we're going to be focusing on the bottom part of this picture in front of you, which is the wiring diagram. And the topic is going to be the turn signal switch. If you remember last night's video, we worked on the top, which was the ignition switch. This one is going to be basically the same thing. So grab a drink and we'll be right back in a minute to explain to you what these wires mean, and I'm going to show you what I've already done to my wiring harness. Okay, everybody, we're back, and just to let you guys know, this might look almost like the ignition switch harness that we worked with last night, but this is different. I'm going to show you, as you can tell right here, this is 2 plugs versus the 1 plug that we were dealing with last night. If you look under the steering column, you're going to see a bunch of little teeth coming out, and this is what these 2 little wiring harness plugs plug in. Now, this is the exact same thing as I did last night, and we'll go over this again. I wired all the wire ends. As you can tell, we'll just take a look at this one real quick. And this one is R, which will show you what that means on the wiring diagram. I labeled every wire, and if you look in the back, it tells you the color, whether it's black, white, red, whatever the case may be. And if you guys don't know how to find the wires, let's see if I can make this easy here, because this one's a little bit pain in the butt to find out here. But again, it's right on the inside part of all these little, on the right below the wires, just like we found last night. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus in on that a little better. Let's see if I can magnify this up here. Okay, so we can see, there you go. You can see the numbers real faint in this picture here because of the lighting. But so again, that's why we need the loop, so we can see all those little numbers. We'll take what the wires were, we'll match them up. Well, I matched them up. I labeled everything just like I did with the ignition switch, and this is where I'm at right now. This, again, like I said, plugs up in under the steering column, like so, and then this wire goes up into the hole right on next to the steering column. All this will be fed right into the trunk area on the other side of the steering column, which the ignition switch wiring harness was. So if you give me just a minute, guys, we'll go back to the wiring diagram, and we'll start going through and showing where these wires go and explain what the diagram means. Okay, everybody, we're back. And before we get going through all these wires here on the bottom, here, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Well, not that big. Okay, that should be good enough. But if you remember on the last video, we didn't have this wire right here, which was S with a negative. This wire here is actually on the turn signal switch, and why they have it way up there, I guess it's maybe just for because there's no room to put it on the bottom. But this wire here, this S negative, is actually on the turn signal switch. So we're going to follow that one just like we did last night. The S negative is going to be a brown wire, and again we're going to look at the number next to it, which is going to be 1.0. 1.0 millimeters is going to be an 18 gauge wire. So it's a brown 18 gauge wire. If you had the factory wiring harness, if you have to replace the wire, we know that we can use an 18 gauge on that. So let's follow where this wire is going to lead us to. Okay, we're going to go up. Now remember, on these videos, just because the wires go up, this just might mean it might go right into a fuse, which is literally a couple inches away. All these distances are not like the true, 5 feet, 10 feet, nothing like that. Okay, so this brown wire is going to go to a T1. If you remember what T1 means on the last video, T1 is a plastic wire connector that connects two wires into one little plastic connector. It's literally just a piece of plastic. And like I said, one wire end connects into the other side just to so you're not running it, one wire, 30 feet or whatever the case may be. So that's all that means right there. So it comes out same color as being brown. So we're going to follow it again. And that is going to go right into H1. If you guys are reading in the Bentley manual, H1 is the actual horn. So on this particular wire, this is going to have a little tube coming out right in front of the left front wheel where the horn is located, and that's where this brown wire is going to come out at. So we're going to trace the wire back. Now this wire was this wire is on the turn signal, but now we're actually caught up and we can actually start working on the bottom. Now this wire connector here, if you have the factory wiring harness, this is going to be, there's going to be three of these plastic wire connectors. I don't want to confuse you too much, but if you open your hood up and you look right above or right in front of the brake reservoir, fluid reservoir, you're going to see exactly where this one wire connector is going to be, and that'll make it easy to identify. So we're going to go back into the turn signal here, and all those wires up on top, we know that's what we worked on last night. So we're going to start working on the bottom now. And we're going to start with the number 5 wire, which if we just follow this right here, it's going to be a 0.5, okay, or yeah, 0.5 millimeter. If you switch that over, it's going to be a 22 gauge. So we're going to go down, we're going to follow this around, and we're going to see where this is going to take us. Now the purpose of this video tonight is just to get the wiring, the turn signal switch harness into the trunk of the car. We're not really too concerned about hooking up to the fuses yet, because when we start hooking up to the fuses, that's where all this is going to start, doing our checks and balance system. So we may leave a wire or so empty tonight or open. Don't think that we're going to forget it, because when you do the wiring, the fuses, it will do a check and balance in itself. And if it doesn't pick up on the fuses, then it'll pick up on the relays. So again, we're going to follow the brown and white wire, and that is going to go into J, which is the dimmer relay. The dimmer relay, let me see if I can find, on a 1972 Super Beetle, if you look in the fuse box, there's going to be a top shelf. The top shelf on the farthest relay on the passenger side is where this is going to be located. So normally we would say, okay, we'll wire the 56B and all these other ones right now, but we're not concerned about that right now. We're just wanting to make sure that the wiring harness is in the trunk of the car, and when we get to this part, it'll do, like I said, it'll do a checks and balance, and we'll come back and we'll catch that to make sure. Now, on this particular wire, as you guys remember that I've got everything labeled, this is where we want to keep the this label. We don't want to take this label off that wire because we're still working actually on that wire or that line or whatever we're going to refer this to as. So it's not really in limbo, but it kind of is. The next one is going to be number 49. And let's get the... Okay, 49 is going to be a green, white, and black wire. You're going to have a really hard time picking up on the black part of this wire if you're using the original, 40-something-year-old car. But I can still see it on mine. The only way I seen this, I would have never known the black wire is actually in there. But looking at the wiring harness and the diagrams, that's how I know it's in there. So coming off the 49, we're going to see a 1.5, which is a 16 gauge wire. Now, the only thing we're concerned about tonight is we want to make sure that when this wire comes off, we want to put it into this single. This is like a little sleeve. It's the same thing as a one wire connector. And it, like I said, I don't know why they didn't put a T1 here, but literally that's all it is. We're not concerned about this blue wire right now. Don't even worry about that. But if for the guys who if you guys want to know where that wire goes, we'll just trace up real quick and find out. But we're not too concerned about putting that into the equation right now. We just want to get that wire onto the fuse. So that's going to go into, let's see here. That's going to go back up on top to the emergency flasher relay. So that's why I said we're not too concerned about that. All we want to do is make sure that we get the wire into the housing so we know where it's at from that point on, so we can cross that off our list. So we're going to go right back down here. And I hope you guys are starting to understand this is really pretty simple. So we're going to go back. Now on this other side here, you're going to see where there's another green, black, and white wire coming off of this little section right here. And I don't want to confuse you guys, but this wire here is going to run all the way over into the emergency flasher relay. But like I said, I don't want to, or not relay, the switch. So I don't want to get you guys confused right now. We're only working on these numbers right here. So let's just stay focused on that. So the first wire we dealt with was the S negative. That was to the horn, which I showed you was, let me scroll this down here a little bit, which was up here. And even though we know that now that this wire is on the turn signal switch and not the actual ignition switch, so that is taken care of. To get caught up where we are now, we dealt with the 5, we dealt with the 49, and did we just do with the R, the right hand side? Okay, we just did with the right. Now the right is going to come off the ignition switch just like we're showing here, and it's going to be a 1.0 millimeter, which converted over is going to be 18 gauge in case we had to replace it. Now, if you got to replace these wires, I would highly recommend making your own schematic diagram, so you guys know what wires to use in the future. It'd be great if you guys could find the original color codes. If you have any companies out there that you know of that will sell these wires, please comment below so we can help the fellow VW guys out. I know if you buy some of the harnesses through some of the companies, I don't want to mention any names because I don't know 100% sure, but a lot of them say, you know, that they do match them up to the factory colors. Like I said, I'm not sure 100%, but I know that in my situation, I lost these whole entire plugs and everything else. So it could become a nightmare if you have to replace this or have to rewire this upon your own self. So we're going to go to the L now. The L is the same thing. The L is going to be a black and white. And let's see here. We're going to follow that down. And that too also is going to go into a two wire connector. See one wire in, one wire out. This happens to be the same color. And I just got done talking about these connectors right here are literally going to be right in front of the master cylinder reservoir fluid area. So if you look inside the fender, this is where it's going to be. You're going to have one of these harnesses are going to go right, and it's going to go down, run right in front of the spare tire, and the other one should go right into the left front turn signal area. So we'll get back and start, when we get to the turn signals, lights, headlights, that will be our checks and balance to pick these wires back up. But like I said, we're only concerned about getting the wires from the switch into the wire connectors. That's the only thing we're concerned about in this video. So this way we're not going to confuse anybody. I know I got easily confused, so that's why I just wanted to do it this way. Excuse me. The next one is going to be 31. Now this wire here, you may or may not even have this in your car. This is for what's called 113 models only, which was imported, left-hand drive vehicles, but there's huge, this wire doesn't fit or doesn't follow the norm in all these wiring diagrams. And I'm going to show you what it does, but this wire will go to the fan motor in the car. I don't think half of us even know what a fan motor even is in the Bug. So like I'm going to show you where it's at, but I really wouldn't go too crazy about this. And like I said, this is a 22 gauge wire. Excuse me. It's going to go up and it's going to go tap into the speedometer area, and like I said, the wire goes right up into the fan switch, the fan motor. But like I said, a lot of us don't even have these in our cars, so, and it was an option, so like I said, we're not really going to stay focused on that. But if you do have a brown wire, it is a 31 location, and that's where it will be located. I don't know if my Super Beetle has the 31 or not. So if it does, I'll connect it. But like I said, I just wanted to let you guys know what that wire was. And again, in this situation, the wire is marked with the blue tape, and I'm just going to have it resting towards the front of the car, right by where the windshield wiper motor is. So I know that I need to address that. And that's where the piece of paper and the notes and the clipboard comes in handy, so you don't lose track of your wires in situations like that. Okay, the next wire is going to be 53. Now what you're going to realize with these next 3 or 4 wires is they're all going to go to the same area. But I'm going to take you one by one so we don't get confused. And we'll just go from there. So 53, I want to say this is just, let me look at the numbers here real quick. Okay, if you notice, there's two 53s. There's a 53 green. Let me get this focused here a little better. A 53 green and a 53 black. So we're going to deal with the green one right now. So we'll put the cursor on the 53, and we'll scroll down. This is an all green wire. It's a 1.0 millimeter, so we're seeing that right here. So 1.0 is an 18 gauge wire. So we're going to follow this, and well, let me show you where this goes first, and then I'll explain something. Now, this is going to go into a 4-wire connector. As you can see here, it's going to be 4 wires in, and this is actually going to go out, but we'll talk about that when we get to that wire. So this is going to stay from green. It's going to go, whoops, hold on guys. Let me see where we're at here. Okay, let me scroll back here. Okay, so we're going to go back down to 53. I want to apologize for that. So 53 again is on the very bottom. So 53, we're going to follow 53. Like I said, 53 is going to go into a 4-wire connector, and it's going to come back out green also, which is good. That way there's no confusion. So we're going to follow this wire, and we'll go up. And you'll notice that it says 53E. Well, there is a 53E, and if you notice, there's a 53 on that wire also. And for those of you who don't know what that picture is, that is the wiper motor. And as you can tell right there in front of you, all the wires are color coded. So basically the wires do stay color coded, but I don't know why 53 and 53E is different on this, but that's where that one wire goes. And you'll notice that on this situation right here, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 5 wires, they are right in front, literally right in front of the windshield. So if you were to open the hood, look right in the middle of the car, that's where the windshield wiper motor is going to be. So we're gonna retrace this wire back down, and if you notice that all these wires these 3 or 4 wires really seem to be running together. The black and the yellow, the black and the black and white. If you notice, they're all going to go into the same 4-pin connector. But we'll talk about this wire by wire. So in case anybody has a question or problem or concern, you can always comment below, and I'll be more than happy to answer it if I have to. I'll give you a phone call. We can go over the manual, go over the book, whatever the case may be to help your situation. So that's where the 53 was. Now the 53B, I think that is the yellow and black wire. I'm sorry, it's a black wire with a solid yellow wire. So it's a 1.0, which is an 18 gauge also. Now these colors, again, everyone, is for the factory wiring harness. I don't know if your wiring is still there, or in some situations you may be able to buy a brand new harness and it may be color coded. But in my situation, I am running the original OEM wires still. So this black with the yellow stripe wire is going to go into the 4-pin connector, as we just seen right here, just like the last wire did. So we're going to follow the black and the yellow wire. Now this hole from the when you put the wiring harness through the hole into the trunk, this whole situation, this whole wiring lead is probably, I don't know, it's under 8 inches, so these wires make it look like, they run a mile, but they really don't. And this is going to connect right into 53B. Again, real plain and simple, not a problem. And like I said, you can go wrong, but make sure when you look at the windshield wiper motor that the motor is facing the right way, because you don't want to get those numbers confused. because those wires do run off to something else, and we'll talk about that in a future video. So we'll go and we'll retrace this black wire again. I know this makes for a real long video like this, but if you're someone like myself, you really appreciate this because, you know, wiring to me is really major, really confusing. So if I watched a video like this, you know, 6 months ago, I would be real thankful. So for you experienced guys, you know, hey, I'm sorry. Go ahead and click off. But for the people who don't know what they're doing, like myself, who value time and stuff like that, you know, this video is for them. So the next one is going to be the other 53 wire, which I told you was black, and the black wire comes down the same way. It's the what is it, a 1.0? That's an 18 gauge wire. So this is going to be now. What I want to explain to you is, if you see how this connector is going, the wires, they have to be the same color. So it has to be green in, green out, black and yellow in, black and yellow out, and stuff, you know, for that reason alone. You can't be mixing these wires up. Like I said, they have to be color coded, I mean, the way they are. So just follow the video. It makes a lot of sense. It makes it a lot easier. So that's just a simple tip, basic knowledge, but when it's overwhelming, again, every little helpful hint, tip is, you know, would be very grateful and very appreciated on my behalf, or, you know, if I was watching this video. So again, guys, this wire is going to go straight up. It's going to go right into the windshield wiper motor, just like the other ones are going so far. So we have a couple more wires to talk about. Now this black and white wire, let's get back to the turn signal switch real quick, because this one's going to do a little trick. So let's get back here real quick. It goes to the same place, but this one has sort of a little mind of its own. Now this one is going to be, here we go again, 53A. Give me just 1 second, guys. Gotta scroll down and get back to the switch again. And just to let you guys know, this is the 1972 Super Beetle wiring diagram. This is like one of the best ones I could find to actually blow, you know, to blow the pictures up and stuff. So just bear with me just 1 second here. And let's see here where we gotta go. Okay. All right. Like I said, just bear with me 1 second. Sorry for the inconvenience here. We'll just do this. Okay, we got to go way up here. Okay, so that's the buzzers. So we just working out on the S. Okay, there's a field gauge. So we're just going to scroll over here. Like I said, I want to apologize for that little inconvenience right there. So we're going to take the cursor here. Come on. This thing's really sensitive tonight, so. All right, so here we go again. So the black and white wire, which is the 53A, is going to come out just like the other ones did. So we're going to follow that one. And when this wire goes into the 4-pin connector here, there's one little different situation. Now, this is a little Y connector. Now this goes, 2 wires goes into that one top pin. that one top wire connector. Now what this one wire does is this wire is actually going to go to the fuse box. And that's going to be on the 10th fuse. So that'll be the 10th fuse if you're sitting in the driver's side seat counting towards the passenger side seat, which is that red wire, right? That red fuse. The red, I believe, is a 16 amp fuse. So that is the only thing difference when we hooking up off the ignition switch into the 4-pin connector here. Now when the wire comes off the 4